How's it going, everyone? It is Drago. We're back with another chapter of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, chapter 157, Fire and Flame. And the cover page for this chapter has Levi and Warren on it, and kind of going in the theme of they had like couples in the past couple of chapters on the covers, but this one's a little different because obviously these two had worked together on the Magic Council. Kind of interesting to see Levi with Warren, obviously kind of doing some floral stuff, and she seems to be really enjoying it with him. And this is just not a combination of characters I would have thought that we would have gotten in a cover together. But honestly, kind of cool to see one of the founders of Fairy Tail still interacting with members of Fairy Tail and having a nice sweet time with them. So we pick up the chapter with Brian leaving the bar and Natsu getting real mad that he left, which has Natsu just straight up book it right after Brian, which is where the bartender finally starts opening up a bit to where he actually does know about the Fire and Flame Guild and that they're a dark guild and they only use fire magic, which is super interesting. What he does know about the Fire God's Castle, which is their headquarters, and the master of that guild, to no one's surprise, is Ignia. Kind of interesting that the bartender calls him a young man, and he's noticed that his appearance has literally stayed the same for years now, so he suspects that he's actually not a human, which is where we cut over to Ignia, and he's having a talk with the Signaro sisters, with them finally returning home, which pretty much just prompts Ignia to talk about the other dragon gods, that Vernus is dead now along with some of the other ones, and some are allied with humans like Silene, but he wants to know about if they had any memories with Natsu, which obviously they didn't really remember. They just have a faint memory of him. With Ignia saying that for 100 years no one could defeat any dragon gods, but Natsu's the one that just keeps defeating one after another. But in the end, Ignia is the one that's gonna win, which all three of them have real menacing looks on their faces in this panel. I think it's kind of interesting, the foreshadowing that Ignia is giving with his thoughts in this panel, with him talking about the Great Labyrinth and that he's going to make the whole continent burn. Kind of interesting because I honestly thought we were done with the Labyrinth. I thought that was done and over with, but apparently that is still a key part of the 100-year quest. I guess we'll see where it goes, but apparently Ignia's got a very grand plan happening right now, which is where we go back to Natsu, and he's finally catching up to Brian, which Brian just immediately offers to let him join forces because he uses fire magic. And Natsu really does not take too kindly to that offer because he just straight up punches him in the face, saying shut up, with Natsu adding that, since he'd hurt Happy and Carla, he has no intention of ever becoming friends with him, which Brian is just fine with that as well, because he opens up his hand and sends a fire blast out of it, which is no problemo for Natsu. He just straight up eats it. Kind of going back to him fighting like Zancro on Tenro Island, this is kind of an interesting stalemate here because both of them can eat flames, so they kind of counter each other, except Natsu can at least do lightning. We don't know what else Brian can do. I like that Brian thinks that this match is going to get decided by like which one of them eats too many flames to where they tip over because they're too full. And Natsu's just like, dude, I don't want to eat any more of your crappy flames. And he follows it up with a fire dragon's talon, which does have Brian immediately take notice of that he said it's a fire dragon attack. And kind of interesting that when he does his talon attack, that his hat opens up and makes like teeth and tries to eat his foot. So he sends Natsu flying back, and he knows now that Natsu is a fire dragon slayer, and that Ignia has mentioned Natsu once before to him, telling Brian that if he finds Natsu, he's supposed to bring Natsu to Ignia, which indirectly Natsu is perfectly okay with because he needs to know where Ignia is to complete the 100-year quest. So he actually, surprisingly enough, when he asks like, hey, I'm supposed to bring you to Ignia if I find you, Natsu's like, cool, I'm coming along right away, let's go do this right now. But before he goes, Natsu does want to go try and tell his fellow guildmates that he's trying to go find Ignia with Brian, which Brian just says no need, and Natsu turns around, everything's in ash now, and Brian says that his past disappeared, which I'm going to press a hard X for doubt on that one. And with that, it is the end of our chapter, so my thoughts. Obviously, I supremely doubt that he turned Natsu's past to ash, because obviously he remembers his past, I'm guessing. This has to be an illusion of some kind with Natsu, because there's no way that he just burned that town to the ground in one instant and deleted all of Natsu's past. Kind of similar to, the lost ice shell that Gray is always trying to do, to where, you just forget the memory of him. And honestly, it would make sense that Brian does have some kind of illusions behind him, because he obviously looks kind of Joker-esque. So I wouldn't be shocked if he has some sort of magic tricks up his sleeve. And especially since Natsu and him are kind of countering each other with, eating each other's flames, he needs to figure out some other way to potentially defeat him, and why not do it psychologically. I'm sure the rest of the group is going to figure out where Ignia's castle is anyway, because that bartender was just telling them everything anyway. So even if Natsu didn't follow Brian, they're probably going to end up there of their own accord as well. Otherwise, not too much that's really happened in this chapter. It was a pretty short one, to be honest. Not too much was really added here. So what are your guys' thoughts about this chapter? Leave in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and this is Drago, signing out.